आज की जो हमारी मेहमान है वो शायद ही किसी तारुफ की मोहताज हो। टोरंटो के लोकल म्यूजिकल दायरे में ये हर जगह आजकल छाई हुई है। भाई रसल पीटर्स से लेके जे शॉन तक ये हर बड़ी शख्सियत के साथ परफॉर्म कर चुकी है। Please welcome into our studios the one, the only Prita Chhabra. So ख़वातीन हज़रात, please join me और मेरे साथ इस्तकबाल करिए भाई प्रीता छाबरा का। Of course, it is a face you cannot ignore. One, because it's very beautiful. Two, because if you live in Toronto, you have not missed this face.
That's nice.
Okay, you know, the first question I've always wanted to ask you, because I've been through a bunch of your interviews, is I feel like there's two Pritas. One is, you know, when you're talking to Prita and when you meet her in person, which I've just done right now, you have this very cute, very adorable girl next door vibe. You're like everyone's friend's younger sister. But then when you sing, you know, you've got this sort of aura of someone who I don't want to think of as anyone's sister. Is there a hidden Sasha Fierce in there somewhere?
I think there is. I think on stage is the moment for me where I feel fully free. And though I feel very comfortable talking to people, I'm very social and stuff like that, just something comes out on stage that just doesn't come out anywhere else.
And it adds that real husk to your voice. Because I love your song Roots, by the way.
Thank you.
It's a brilliant track, and the video is something we'll talk about in just a bit as well. But let's actually sort of backtrack a bit. Let's start about, you know, from the beginning, from the roots. There you go. You see what I did there? So, starting off, I know you were born in Montreal, and then sort of you were kind of dragged away to Florida. You're
dragged away.
It's like, nahi! You're like taking it's like, chalo. But in terms of, you know, singing, I believe that you'd been singing from a really young age. But your first sort of performance-related gig was actually as one of the characters at Disney World. Tell me about that.
You know, it was one of the first jobs I had. I was 16 years old. When you're living in Orlando, Florida, where do you get a job? Disney. Like, everyone goes there. And I actually wanted to, I started off as being a hostess, and I had a couple of jobs. I really wanted to be one of the characters.
Right.
And it was one of the most fun jobs ever. I mean, everyone loves you. You just go out there and everyone loves you, and it's a great time. One of my favorite roles there was being a fairy, because I got to have my own face. I had this like really awesome, you know, leotard costume. I had wings and a net, and I would catch all the children's dreams and make them come true. And I had this like really cool ring that if you bought these special pins for the parade, I had a button on my ring that would activate the lights and the pins in a certain area. So sometimes I'd come up to a kid and I'd kiss them and I'd push my ring, and then I'd be like, look. And they'd be like, oh, and their faces was just, it was priceless. So it was a great, great job.
That's amazing. You know what, growing up, and I feel like ये देसी माँ बापों को मैं बता रहा हूँ, please अपने बच्चों को ज़िंदगी में एक दफ़ा Disney World ले जाएं. Growing up, you know, all the kids were like, where'd you go for summer? We went to Disney World. Where'd you go? We went to India or Pakistan.
I know, right.
Like that's what we would do as kids, right?
Right.
So
even in my school, it's funny because when we were moving, I was really sad. I didn't want to leave, and my parents told me like 2 days before we left, before they just started packing up our stuff. And I remember finding it was like a questionnaire kind of thing. Where would you like to live when you grow up? And I had written Disney World because all the other kids got to go to Disney, and I said, I want to live there. I was like, damn it, I screwed myself over.
Did you actually want to live in Disney World after having worked there for a certain amount of time?
It's a different experience. Anytime you work somewhere, it's something different. I still love Disney. I still go there every time I'm back home, and I love it.
Okay, so other than sort of being one of the fairies, can you tell me sort of, are you allowed to actually tell me sort of what was some of the characters you've played?
I shouldn't, but I will.
Okay,
who cares?
Between us, just between us.
I was Chippendale, not like the stripper dancer people, like the chipmunks.
That's kind of hard for you to be one of the Chippendales,
I was like the chipmunks. I tell some people like, wow, that's kind of risque. I'm like, not them, like the chipmunks, the naughty little chipmunks. Timon, White Rabbit, 6 of the 7 dwarfs. I was too tall to be dopey.
Oh wow! So you kind of covered the rest of them.
Yeah. Many others, like a lot.
That's amazing. Okay, so from being a character performer at Disney World to being a recording artist that's omnipresent in the Toronto and the North American scene, how does it feel when you look back? It's been a massive journey.
You know what? Once I got started, I didn't stop, and that was just a huge blessing for me in my life, because at the time that I started recording my first CD, I was also in my first semester at music school.
And that was in Montreal?
That was in Montreal. Okay. I'd come back to do university. I got a psych degree at Concordia University. On the stage getting my diploma, I'm looking around, everyone's so proud. I'm not proud. I'm like, I did this for my parents. I didn't do this for me.
Right.
And when am I going to start living my own life? And you know, I'm getting older, and I want to be a singer. Well, no one's just going to
older, like in inverted
when you're that young, you're like, oh my God, 25 is so old.
That's true,
right? So, you know, just looking around, not feeling proud, and saying no one's just going to discover me, and realizing that I have to start doing the work. So I went straight into music school, total career path change, whatever you want to call it. I had a really hard time in music school because I went to a cégep, so most of the kids there go right after high school to prepare themselves for university.
Right.
And all these kids have been like playing violin since they were in the womb, and like you know, came out with a violin and they're like, you know, like, and here I am struggling and drowning, like I couldn't keep up with anybody. I was just learning how to read music. I was learning how to do all this stuff, and then I started recording the CD at the same time, and it was just too much. So I said, you know what? Just going to record the CD. I'm going to leave school for a while. If things don't work out, then I'll go back to school and really like master the craft. Yeah. But things haven't slowed down since.
That's amazing.
So
is that when Spread the Word happened?
Yes.
And that's amazing. And you've been spreading the word ever since.
I've been trying.
So
I haven't had time to really look back. But when I kind of like look through my Facebook and I see the articles that have been written about me, and I see some of the photo shoots, and I see some of the performances, I'm like, wow. Like I remember that girl on that stage at graduation when I had my little psych degree. Like she would have never dreamed any of the fact that I'm having an interview on TV with you was like, hello. Would have never dreamt that.
That's actually what was going to be one of my questions. Did you actually think you would be sort of, you know, following this path when you were collecting your psych degree?
You know what? I'd always dreamt it. I always felt like I was meant to be a singer. Yeah. When you know something like that, at the same time you doubt yourself. I'm my worst critic. Yeah. So you really, really doubt yourself. So I didn't think it would be possible. I wanted it. Yes. I knew I was worth it. Right. I knew that I deserved it, but I didn't know if, you know, God would give it to me. But that's how I kind of started my relationship with God too, because God has been amazing to me and has shown me so many things are possible if you just believe and have faith in God. If I ever get stressed out about something, I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's hard as an upcoming singer. You don't have your parents' support. You never will until you're buying them cars. Yes, exactly.
And I was going to ask you about that. So in terms of when you've got your psych degree, and of course parents are like really proud that Prita has a psych degree, and then you're like, well, I'm actually going to music school. What is that reaction like?
I think they were kind of like, it's a phase. Right. It's going to be a phase.
And the denial.
Be fine. Yeah. Yeah, but they knew that I was miserable in psych. Every couple of 3 or 4 months, I'd call them crying. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. You have to live a life with purpose. Yes. And you know, you can't live the life your parents wish they lived either. You have to do things that mean something to you, because you'll never know where it's going to take you, and you never know how rewarding it's going to be. And you know, a lot of my friends are getting married, they're having kids, they're buying apartments, homes, all this stuff. I'm nowhere near ready for that stuff. Like I'm not, you know, that's not the type of life I'm building for myself at all. And sometimes I think back and I say, maybe I should have just continued, maybe life would be easier. But I know it wouldn't be as fulfilling as it is. And I'd trade that for any day. What scares me is having to get a 9-to-5 job than what I'm doing right now. So.
And that's amazing. I'm really glad that it's actually working out for you. Now, you spoke about purpose, and I know that sort of you followed more than one purpose in your life. I think you've had more than one calling, and you've answered that call. But we want to talk about that when we come back from a short break. So, भाई आप कहीं ना जाइएगा, बहुत सारी बातें करनी है. भाई उनकी 2 म्यूजिक वीडियोस भी देखनी है और बात करनी है कि भाई उन्होंने अपनी जिंदगी का क्या आला तरीके से इस्तेमाल किया है. So हम अभी गए और अभी वापस आए.